Welcome back again, my dear students. Today we will see together how can we change sentences with verb to have into negative. But before going into any details, you have to know that verb to have comes either alone as a main verb in the sentence or as an auxiliary verb or helping verb with other verbs. So, here, if I have this sentence with verb to have only, I will change it by using don't, didn't, or doesn't. But if I have verb to have in the sentence with other verbs, I have to choose only not to change the sentence into negative. So, before going into any details with verb to have, you have to see that have is the infinitive form. I mean, it is V1. So have with I, we, they, and you. And when I want to use verb to have with he, she, and it, I have to choose has. And if the verb is in the past, so the past form of verb to have is had. So had comes with all pronouns. I, we, they, you, he, she, it, right? So here I have verb to have is the infinitive form. It is V1 of the verb. Okay, so let's see if I have verb to have with the sentence here alone without anything. So if I have verb to have as a main verb, so it means that I don't have any other verbs, right? So I have only verb to have or has or had, have or has or had, have with I, we, they, you, has with he, she, it, or had in the past form with all the pronouns. So if I have in the sentence have or has or had, how can I change the sentence into negative? Let's see together. I have a new car. So here you have to look at the verb. Do you have two verbs? No, teacher. I have only verb to have. I don't have any other verb. Verb to have is the main verb in the sentence. So, have, I have to change it if it comes alone into negative by using don't have. Don't have. So I say, I don't have a new car. So if you see have alone as a main verb in the sentence, so I will change the sentence into negative by using don't have. If I see had and my sentence is in the past, so I had my breakfast at 9, I have to use didn't. But after didn't and don't and doesn't, I have to come with the infinitive form of the verb. So I say I didn't have my breakfast at 9. I cannot say, for example, here, I cannot say I didn't had. No, teacher. No, teacher. Why? Because after don't or doesn't or didn't, I have to choose V1. So what is V1 of verb to have? Have. What is V1 of verb to have? Have. So here I have to say here, I didn't have my breakfast at 9. Number 3, she has a bike. I want to change this sentence into negative. How can I change it into negative? I have to look at the verb. If I see verb to have or had or has, all these forms are verb to have. So if I see verb to have as a main verb, it means it comes alone without any other verbs. So I will choose don't or didn't or doesn't. So I will choose here doesn't. Why? Because doesn't with he, she, and it. And I have here has, and has with s, I have to choose doesn't. But if my sentence is in the past, I have to choose didn't. And if my sentence is in the present and I have I, we, they, and you, I have to choose don't. So here I will choose doesn't have a bike. And of course, I cannot say she doesn't has a bike. Why? Very good, because after doesn't, I have to choose V1. I cannot say here she doesn't has. No, I have to say she doesn't have a bike. So, again, if I see verb to have alone, I have to choose don't or doesn't or didn't to change the sentence into negative. And after have or had or has, I have to choose what? I have to choose V1. What is V1 of verb to have? V1 of verb to have is have. So here I have a new car. I don't have a new car. Why I choose don't have? Because I see have as a main verb, and have, the negative is don't have. So I don't have a new car. I had my breakfast at 9, so I will change the sentence into negative by using didn't have. Why? Because I see verb to have in the past, had, in the past form, had, and there is no other verbs in the sentence. It means that I have verb to have here in the sentence as a main verb. So I cannot say I had not. No. I have to say I didn't have. I cannot say I don't have. Why? Because I see here had here in the past. So when it is in the past, I have to choose didn't. So here, don't with I, we, they, and you in the present. And doesn't with he, she, and it. And when I see had, it means I have to choose didn't. I have to choose didn't, right? So here I use didn't have because I see had. I had, and I see had alone. It comes alone as a main verb. So when it comes as a main verb, I have to choose yeah, don't, or doesn't, or didn't. Right, so here I have to choose didn't, and after didn't I have to choose have. Why? Because I cannot say I didn't had, because don't, didn't, doesn't, followed by infinitive form. What is the infinitive form of verb to have? Have. So I don't have, I didn't have, she doesn't have. So when you see has, it means that I have verb to have as a main verb. So I have to think which one I will choose, don't or doesn't or didn't. Of course, I have here has. When I see has, I have to choose doesn't. And after doesn't, I have to choose V1. So here it will be she doesn't have a bike. She doesn't have a bike. Okay. Now I have verb to have as an auxiliary verb. What do we mean by auxiliary verb? It means that it is a helping verb, a verb that helps the main verb. So when I have two verbs here in the sentence, have plus V3, it means I have two verbs. In this case, I have to change the sentence into negative by adding only not. So here, I'm going to add only not after verb to have. I have bought a car. I want to change the sentence into negative, so I have to add only not after verb to have. So I say, I haven't bought a car since 2022. He has played tennis. Look at the verb. Do you have one verb or two verbs? I have two verbs, has and played. So when you have two verbs in the sentence, you have to change it into negative by adding only not after the first verb. So here I will say, he hasn't played tennis for 2 hours. She had finished her homework. She had finished her homework. Change the sentence into negative. So I have to look at the verb. Do you have one verb or two verbs? Here you have one verb, have, had, has. But here you have two verbs, had, finished, had, finished. So when you have two verbs, had, finished, you have to change the sentence into negative by adding not after the first verb. So I will say, she hadn't finished her homework yet. Right? Okay, so let's see together the summary of our rule here. I will write here if you see have alone, so it means one verb only as a main verb, so you will change the sentence into negative by using don't have. If you see has alone, so you mean, or it means that you will going to change the sentence into negative by using doesn't have. If you see had alone without any verbs, without any other verbs, so you will change the sentence into negative by using didn't have. It means that if you see have or has or had alone in the sentence, you have to choose don't have or doesn't have or didn't have. And remember, after don't or doesn't or didn't, you have to choose V1. What is V1 of verb to have? V1 of verb to have is have. Okay. What if I here see, what if I see here two verbs, have plus another verb plus verb? So I have here two verbs. If I have two verbs with verb to have, it means that I have to change the sentence into negative by adding not after the first verb. So here again, if you see verb to have alone, have or has or had, it means that you will choose don't or doesn't or didn't. Have, don't have, has, don't, doesn't have, had, didn't have. And of course, remember, keep it in your mind, if you see don't or doesn't or didn't, or if you use don't or doesn't or didn't, you have to follow them by V1 or the infinitive form. What is the infinitive form of verb to have? Have. But if verb to have comes with other verbs in the sentence, it means have plus V3, have bought, has played, had finished. So it means I have two verbs in the sentence. So when I have two verbs in the sentence, so I cannot say doesn't or don't or didn't, or I cannot use auxiliary verb. Why? Because here verb to have is already an auxiliary verb or a helping verb. So here I'm going to change the sentence into negative by using not after the first verb, after have or has or had. And now, my dear students, we will see here how to choose the correct answer, how to choose or how to make all these sentences negative and choose the correct answer. So let's see together. Number one, I have played tennis since 1999. I want to change the sentence into negative. So I'm given three choices. Which one is right? So I have to look at the verb. I have here to look at the verb. How many verbs do I have? I have two verbs. So when I have two verbs, I have to choose not. So which one is right? Don't have if I see have. Didn't have if I see had. Haven't if I see two verbs. So here the correct answer is number C, haven't. Why? Because I have two verbs. Number two, she had an old car. She had an old car. So look at the verb, you will see only had. So this is one verb. So which verb? If I have here had, so it is a main verb. So I have only one verb. So I will choose don't or doesn't or didn't. Let's see the choices here. Hadn't if I have two verbs. Didn't have if I have had. Don't have if I have in the sentence have. So which one is right? I have had. So I will choose didn't have. Very good. Number three, they have lunch early in the morning. How many verbs do I have here? I have only one. So it's one verb. Let's see the choices together. Haven't if I have two verbs. Don't have if I have in the sentence have. Doesn't have if the main verb is has. So which one I have? I can see have in the sentence. So have with here. So the correct answer, don't have. Let's see number four. Rana has many friends. Rana has many friends. So, how many verbs do I have? I have only one. Has. Very good. So here has is the main verb. So it's one verb. Let's see the choices. Didn't have when I see had in my sentence. Hasn't if I have two verbs in the sentence. Doesn't have if I see has in the sentence. So I have has. So I will choose doesn't have. Very good. Excellent. Number five. We had played basketball after studying. We had played basketball after studying. Look at the verb. When you want to change the sentence into negative, you have to look at the verb first. So when you look at the verb, count. How many verbs do you have? I have two verbs here. Had and played. So I have two verbs. So which one I will choose? Didn't have or, let's see together here. Okay. So I have three choices. Didn't have or hadn't or it's not clear. Okay. So here I will choose what? Didn't have or hadn't. Let's see together. Didn't have if I see had only had one verb. Hadn't if I have two verbs. So how many verbs do I have here in my sentence? One and two. So here I have two verbs, I will choose hadn't. Hadn't is the correct answer. So, my dear students, look at the verb if you want to change your sentence into negative. If you see one verb here, especially with verb to have, I'm talking about verb to have. If you see one verb, you will choose auxiliary verb, don't or doesn't or didn't. Don't if you see have, didn't if you see had, and doesn't if you see has. But if you see two verbs, had played or have played, so you have to choose not after the first verb or after verb to have. Study your lessons very well and pay attention to the grammatical rules because they are very important in your studying English.